Hi everyone, my name is Nicole, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to my neighborhood. This is a place where we share stories that may be similar to what you're going through, story that may reflect something, teach you something new, old, young. It is never too late to learn something different. Now today I'll tell a story of one of the young men that I liked in my neighborhood. His name was Lou. Lou was a very jovial person. He was carefree. He loved people. He loved game, and he was very curious about life. Now Lou lived with his mother, and he went to school like any typical young man. And like his character was, everybody liked him. Who really didn't like Lou? On a certain morning, Lou went to school. He sat at his usual place with his friend Benny on his left side and Axel on his right side. Nothing different really. Class was normal. It was a sunny day. Everybody was happy. Everything was normal. But what Lou did not know was that day was going to change his life forever. You might ask, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Well, there was this young boy, the younger son of the chief. His name was Dembe. He had just been transferred to his class. And you should know that Dembe was known to be a bully. And everybody feared him, whether being upper classes or lower classes, whether it was just because of his character or because they feared his dad, they really feared Dembe. And he was transferred to Lou's class. Now, Lou did not know much about Dembe, but the moment he entered the class, Dembe was fixed at the chair of Benny. He just wanted that particular chair, and he went towards the chair and he violently removed his friend from the chair. He was violating him. He was treating him so badly with his friends who were in his crew. And that was a big shock for Lou. Lou was like, what? Why? So he was really sad to see his friend seated on the ground crying as any other kid who's being bullied. And he felt like he wanted to say something. So he lifted up his hand and was like, when he was just about to speak, his other friend Axel was like, no, be quiet, please. Do not say anything, so that he doesn't get even angry and start attacking us. But he's like, that is not good. He's like, do you really want him to come and beat us as well? So it doesn't concern you. It doesn't concern us. Let him be. Let him chill. Benny will be fine. We'll all be fine. Everything is gonna go back to normal. So he went quiet. He listened to his friend, and they went on with the day. But that incident stayed in his mind. He was like, really? Should I have done something? But his friend was so sad. He was crying. He could not forget how Benny was crying on the ground. Nobody else was talking for him. Nobody else was helping him. So the jovial boy went back home, but his mind was full of thoughts. And he was so full of sadness in his heart. His young mother saw that something had changed in his son. So she was like, what might have been wrong with my child? She thought maybe he will come to her like he always did, because he was very curious. He would ask her questions and she would answer them any other day. But this particular day, he was quiet, doing his homework, roaming around. He didn't even want to go to play in the neighborhood with other neighbors, kids. He stayed home. So because he did not go to her, she decided at dinner time, you know what? Let me ask him the question. He was like, what is wrong with you, my boy? You look so preoccupied. Then the young man went on telling him what happened to him. He told him about his friend Benny and how he had a bad day at school and nobody helped him. Nobody said anything. Even he didn't say anything. And his mom asked him, why did you not say anything? He said, but my friend Axel said that if I was to say anything, there would be consequences. Then they would have beaten me as well. And I wouldn't be happy to be in the place of Benny. And his mother looked at him tenderly. And she said this, my son, do you know this poem that says, first they came for the Jews? And the young man shook his head. He was very confused. He did not understand. What would she want to bring a poem into this whole situation? She was supposed to give him an advice or something like that anyways. So he said, no, I don't know the story. So she said, sit down, let me tell you what happened. There's this poem that says, First they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I was not Jew. Then they came for the communists. I did not speak out because I was not a communist. And then they came for the unionists. I did not speak out either because I was not a unionist. And then they came for me. And there was no one left to speak out for me. So you see, my boy, when you see something evil and you do not speak out, that is giving power to the person who's doing that thing. It is like you're silently agreeing with them that what they're doing is right. Next, they will go and do bigger things, and there will be more discrimination. There will be more violence. Those people will grow into their error instead of being corrected and coming back to the right path. And then they will come against you. And because you did not stand up for your friends, nobody will stand up for you because they will think it's a normal thing to do, to just let the bully do their thing. So it's okay when you stand up for your friend. And it is also important to know that even when you face their fury, there is always a big change that happens to the people around you. There are a lot of stories of people who died because they were fighting for justice. A lot of people who gave up their rights, who accepted to be punished so that you may be free today, you know. So when your friends are in trouble, you shouldn't sit by and let them be in trouble. You should step up and do something about it. Okay? The little boy nodded. And what his mom said stayed into his head. A few days later, as you can imagine, when he went to school, he heard his friend screaming, "No, don't take it, it's mine. Don't take my lunchbox." When he was hearing the voice, he recognized it was Axel, his other friend. So he rushed to the direction where the voice of his friend was coming from, and to his surprise, his friend was on his knee, fighting for a little box that was his, and he was surrounded by Dembe and his friends, and they were pulling, and he was crying, begging, and everybody was around and nobody was doing anything. And then his mom's words came up into his mind. He was what? Then they came for the Jews. Oh, it clicked into place. And all of a sudden the shy guy went in front of his friend and he was like, "Stop that right now!" Everybody was shocked. You could hear the crowd, people were like, "Oh, he did not just do that." Everybody was like, "Shh, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Oh my God, did he just say that? Did he just..." David was also surprised because he's used to do whatever he wants and nobody stops him. So he turns to him and was like, "What did you just say?" He was like, "Stop that, it's not right." He's like, "Mind your business, I'm not doing anything to you." He's like, "No, you're not doing anything to me, but you're doing something wrong to my friend. And tomorrow, you might do it to me. Yesterday, it was Benny's chair you wanted. Today, you want Axel's box. Tomorrow, you will want Wendy's hair. And now, if nobody speaks to you, I will stand up against you." Everybody was shocked. Dembe was furious. And so he stood and said, "If I don't stop, what will you do?" What will I do? He did not know what he would do. But one thing he knew, he would stand for what is right. So he stood up, the little young man, in front of this gigantic big boy. He stood up there and he said, "I will not allow you to do that." And then Dembe turned his attention towards Lou and started advancing, menacing, full of strength and full of power and full of anger. And Lou remembered his mother's words. It's okay to face his fury, because even if you're punished for doing something right, it will make a big change for people around you. So even though he was scared and he wanted to run away, he stood his ground. He fixed him and he was like, "This gigantic man, I will take him on," whatever. I don't even know what was going on in his mind, for real. Anyways, all of a sudden sudden he sees the face of the boy coming towards him changes. And all of a sudden he was scared. He looked confused. He looked like if he didn't know what to do. And Lou was curious. He was like, did I do something? But when he was looking into Dembe's eyes, he realized he was not looking at him. So he looked behind to see what was it that was scaring his adversary. And to his surprise, there was a big man standing behind him, the chief of the village. Oh my gosh, am I in trouble? But before he could start worrying and panicking, behind the chief was his mother. And she had this biggest smile, and she was very proud of him. And behind her, there was the headmistress. And they were all fixing at the scenario. And then the chief of the village said, "Is it how I raised you, son?" Now to those words that was so full of authorities, Lou turned around to look at this adversary. And all of a sudden he realized that this guy that looks impossible to conquer looked like he had gone so shy. He had become so humble. He couldn't even fix his eyes up. And he realized that what his mother said was true. When you face people, you will always find someone who will help you. And even if you don't, and you face consequences, someone else will learn from it. As you might imagine, Dembe was punished. And there was joy in the whole school. Not because he was punished, but because someone stood up for his friends. And everybody learned from that. Everybody learned from that. And many years later, you might be surprised, many years later when Lou was going into the neighborhood, he met these kids who reminded him of his childhood. And one of them was telling the other one, "Do you know the poem, 'First they came for the Jews'?" Lou smiled because he remembered how that word changed his life. And every time when he met some injustice, every time he met discrimination, he knew what to do to stand up for what is right. What about you? Maybe at school, maybe at work, maybe at church, in the neighborhood, in your dancing class. Do you meet bullies? Do you see things wrong? Do your friends do things to other people that you do not agree with? What do you do when that happens? Do you face them face on and tell them, "No, this is not true, this is not right"? Or do you shy away so that they can remain friends with you? Maybe society is wrong. Maybe we should really stand for what is right. I hope this taught you something. If you like the story, like the video, subscribe, and see you in my next story. Love you. Bye-bye.